All right, let's dive right in. Today, we are peeling back the layers on one of the most debated, most influential stories in history, the destruction of Sodom. People have been arguing about what this story really means for, well, basically forever. And today, we're going to explore why. You see, it all boils down to one central question. What was the actual sin that led to the city's total destruction? Now, you might think you already know the answer, but trust me, it is way more complicated than it seems. And how we answer that question, well, it has some pretty huge consequences. And I mean real-world consequences, right now. This isn't just some dusty old story. The way it's interpreted has a direct impact on people's lives today. Take this 2016 survey in Indonesia, for example. It showed that how people read texts like the Sodom story can shape social attitudes in a big way. It found that LGBT people were the most disliked group, which just goes to show you how these ancient narratives are still echoing in our modern world. So it's absolutely crucial to understand all the different ways they can be read.
Okay, so before we can unpack all those different interpretations, we need to get on the same page. Let's just do a quick rundown of the basic story. What actually happens in Genesis chapter 19?
And wow, is it a dramatic story? So, two visitors, who are actually angels, show up in Sodom. A guy named Lot welcomes them into his home to keep them safe. But then things get ugly. The men of the city, we're talking all of them, young and old, surround the house and make this really disturbing demand. In a truly shocking move, Lot offers them his two daughters instead, but they're not interested. The whole thing spirals out of control until the angels step in, blind the mob, and tell Lot's family to run for their lives because the entire city is about to be wiped off the map by a storm of fire and sulfur. I mean, it is an intense and pretty troubling story no matter how you slice it. And that very intensity is what has fueled literally centuries of fierce debate. What exactly was the great sin of Sodom that warranted this? Was it one specific thing or a whole bunch of things? This is where the story starts to split into some very different paths. For a really long time, this debate has had two main camps. On one side, you have the traditional view. It argues that the sin was, pretty explicitly, homosexuality. This reading zooms in on that demand from the mob to know the male visitors, interpreting it as a call for a sexual assault. So in this reading, the fire and brimstone is a direct judgment on same-sex acts. But then you have this other powerful argument that says the main sin was actually a massive violation of hospitality, which was a huge sacred deal back then. In this view, the demand wasn't about sex at all. It was about power, violence, and humiliating outsiders. So the sin wasn't about orientation, it was about cruelty. And believe it or not, this huge disagreement really hinges on the meaning of a single Hebrew word, yada. Okay, so this verb shows up over 1,000 times in the Old Testament, and most of the time it just means